everyone. I'm Juliette.
And I'm Karl.
And this is the VisioNuri Podcast,
where we talk all things eyes.
Whether it's eyewear fashion from our collection, NURILENS, or trending eye health phenomena, we cover some of the things that people might not think about related to their eyes, but should.
We'll explore hot topics in the world of eye health, talk to professionals in the field, and share stories of real people with real life experiences.
We invite you to join us as visionaries looking toward a future with a clear view.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our anniversary episode of the VisioNuri Podcast. Hey, Juliette, how's it going?
Going pretty well. Happy 2-year anniversary to us.
2-year anniversary. It was a quick 2 years. It feels like it went by really fast.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah. A hectic 2 years as well.
Right. To say the least. A hectic 2 years.
Yeah. So we got an exciting podcast. This is the last episode of the season.
Yes.
So keep up and be ready for season 2 because it's coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But let's get into this episode. What do we got going on today, Julia?
So this episode, we're really gonna look back on our year in review. Of course, we had a short-lived season for the VisioNuri Podcast this year, but we definitely want to kind of gear you up for what we can expect for our next season. Karl and I have spent a lot of time doing research, market research, strategic planning for NURILENS, but also for VisioNuri, and seeing how we can really continue these conversations that about, topics that we don't often pay attention to as it relates to our eye health. So this episode, we're really going to take the time again to just really look back, right, on how far we've come in such a short time. Usually they say, small business owners, after 5 years, they usually don't make it, and we're 2 years in. So I guess the next 3 years are pivotal for us, but we're really grateful to have made so much progress and moved forward so much in a very short amount of time. I mean, we've gotten so much press this year, right? Afrotech, Black Enterprise, Travel Noir, Yahoo, MSN, all of these different platforms.
Something on Pinterest too, right?
We did do a Pinterest live feature. Oh my goodness, I forgot that we did that in March.
I remember how hectic that was.
That was a lot of, but it was a really, really dope live. So if you guys check us out on Pinterest, look us up, you will find that we did go live. I believe it was the end of February.
It was around that time.
Yes, and we had the African Exilist, Dennis Matumbo, Dennis Moranga. He goes by a number of artist names. But yes, we were able to have him on board. So shout out to him for making such an exciting experience with us with Pinterest. And then of course we started meeting you all face to face at pop-ups, which again was very eventful.
Yeah. To say
the least. But yeah, it's been a pretty dope experience. So we really look forward to connecting with everybody next year. So now that we're really like coming to year 2, bro, I would love to get your feedback on, especially as an eye care professional, what it's been like for you. I know you've done a couple of pop-ups as well, connecting with people. And we've done a lot of, we've found a lot of discoveries. We've had a lot of conversations. We've networked with a lot of people. So like, what has it been like for you this past year?
One of the biggest takeaways I think I have from the year, and one of the most like rewarding feelings I felt, is just being at pop-ups and people will come up and they'll be like, oh, these frames are cool, they're dope, and they try them on. And when they're like deciding to make a purchase, they're like, wait, is this Black owned? And I'm like, yes, it is. And the owner's there, whether you were actually at the pop-up or your like
Right.
picture was there. And they're
Right.
like, okay, awesome. Let's buy two, you know?
Right.
And I think that's cool because a lot of times in the optical space, there's a lack of representation.
Oh, yeah.
So when people can see people that look like them, creating frames cater to them, I think
Right.
they feel at home, you know, and
Right.
it's nice, especially since our frames are so diverse in their background, in their wood, and you know, so
Right.
it's nice to see that, like, yeah, we got a pair of 1804s, but it's not, you know, it's real when we say like, yeah, this is a pair of 1804s and we named it after our home country, and
Yeah.
it represents something bigger for everyone. So
Right.
that's one of the biggest things I think I took away from this year.
And to add to what you said, I mean, and I remember when we first like came up with the names, and I don't, at least for me, I was like, oh, okay, let's just add these names of places. You know, I wanted to really represent who I am, but who the team is, who our community is, right?
Yeah.
And it really took off. You know, you have people coming to the pop-ups and it's like 1804, and you tell them like, does that sound familiar? And they're like, wait, you're Haitian, you know, or people who you know, are from other parts of the world, and they're like, okay, can you come out with a design that's named after this country or this city or this tribe, and so on and so forth. So I think, to add to what you said, it just really does add value to the importance of representation.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you remember, I think it was Afropunk, and there was a Jamaican lady, and I was showing her some frames, and I don't know why I thought the Port of Spain's looked great on her. So I was like, yeah, I like the Port of Spain's. I like, you know. And then she was like, well, okay, what about these other ones? And I was like, oh, the Montego Bays. And then she was livid with me.
I
like,
knew it.
She could not. she was like, I told you I was Jamaican and you didn't show me these first, and she ended up leaving with a pair of Montego Bays, but like I was like, come on, Karl, like, you know, like
I
people kind of
actually
connect
spoke
with
to
them.
someone.
Yeah.
Same case with me. I actually had spoken to someone prior to a pop-up and said, this is where we're going to be. This is where we're going to be. I think it was Afro Sokolab where we were going to be.
Okay.
And they looked at the website. They knew they wanted the Montego Bay. They knew they wanted it. And they got to the pop-up and they walked away with the Port of Spain. They are Trinidadian.
That's how it is.
And I was like, wait, I thought you wanted the Montego Bay. And they're like, yeah, but then I saw the Port of Spain and I'm Trinidadian. Why wouldn't I get it?
Maybe for the next pair, but the first one, you know, like I gotta go, and yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it is extremely it's extremely refreshing to see how people are really connecting with the names of the frames and with the brand, right? I mentioned this on another podcast. I think when I kind of shared the story, when I did share the story of forming NURILENS and starting the business and naming the frames, I kind of it was almost like very much a check off, you know, check the box type of thing. You know, I did it. Now let's move on to the next thing. Let's move on to the next strategy. And I'm grateful for our publicist, L'Amour Lifestyle PR. Shout out to you guys, because, you know, they really were able to connect with people who are interested in sharing our story. And then you see how it draws people, it draws the community in, because they really want to hear more about who we are and what we represent and what the brand represents. And you have some people who may not identify as a Black person or a Black woman or Afro-Caribbean or anything like that, or Afro-Latina, but still, you know, because of what we represent, right, that draws them in and makes them want to support us. So we are grateful for everybody who's read our story, who's really been drawn to our mission, because again, we are who we are because of your support. So so let's kind of look back on our journey to episode 5. Again, it's a little short, right? First time podcasters. I think for my time, it's like for me, it's kind of the second time. But I'd love for us to kind of look at where we started and where we are now, and what we're hoping that we can do next season, next year. Episode 1, I think that's self-explanatory. Episode 1 was our All Things Eyes episode. And we basically introduced ourselves and talked about where we came from. And I know one of the questions we asked was, when you look back on where you started, something along those lines, when we look back at where we started, how do we view NURILENS and our progress and everything now? And I want to ask you that question again, now that we're coming on 2 years. I know you said your favorite part was the pop-ups, but back from where we started and back from that conversation.
I mean, when did the episode 1 drop? Was it summertime or?
It was June 17th.
June 17th. I feel like there's even from like June 17th, I feel like there's been such a change. So much has like happened since then. So to think about like all the way to when we started, it's like it's a little hard to put into words. Like from like just remembering like you like visualizing the concept of new frames, right? Like, because we had a collection already, and then you were like, yeah, Karl, I just drew up some, like, what do you think? And now it's like, no, they're here and they're out and they're selling, like the Kairos and the Porter Spains. And I remember like trying to come up with names, and you tasked me with that, and you're like, Karl, just come up with names for these for me. And I was like, that like labored me for a long time. For a couple of weeks, I was sitting on that. So I think it's just awesome to see like how ideas can like manifest into like reality.
Right.
And I'm just grateful to be like, because you don't always like think back about like how you got to where you are, I feel like you're always focused on looking at the next step and the next milestone and the next mountain to conquer, right? But you don't realize, or you don't always take a step back to look at how far you got, right? So that's something that I would think is definitely stands out to me in those last 2 years, just because like, yeah, we got big, huge plans and we got like so much further to go. But when you think about how far we came, like, I think that's impressive too. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you for coming on this journey. Well, letting me come on this journey with you.
At this point, it's your journey. It's your company, Karl. I tell people that Karl is my boss. I report to him.
It's a balanced system, right?
A very healthy balance.
Yeah, you report to me, I report to you.
So, yes. Now the question of who drives who the craziest.
Listen.
Dramatic silence. See, now that makes it seem like we don't get along. Y'all, we do get along.
We get along.
We get along quite well. We make quite a good team.
Yeah, I think so.
Quite a good pair. Yeah.
Yeah, what about you? Like, what do you think, looking back at how far we've come since 2 years?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think it was more than 2 years, because it was like the planning toward it.
Yeah.
Wow. It's an overwhelming feeling, to say the least. And I guess when they say like, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough or something.
Yeah.
So, and when we dropped this episode, June 17th, remember we did our first pop-up ever.
Yeah.
And so this is really my first time. It's a vulnerable feeling where this is your first time having to kind of step out, and people, I feel like you're shielded from the online space. When people come to your website, they can leave your website or whatever. But now like they're coming in person and they're asking questions, and you know, you have to answer those questions, and you have to be transparent, and you also, this is like a way for you to collect data, right? So for me, it was like a very vulnerable experience. And then we dropped episode 1, June 17th. That weekend, we had 2 more, and that's where like it was just like the floodgates opened up.
Yeah.
And that's where we saw like, okay, we really need to connect more with people. And I don't remember if this was the pop-up, but like I remember getting a text from you, like the sales are coming in and you're getting the notifications, and you sent me this like, yo, we outside, like we really, and I'm like, yeah, we are.
Yeah.
So it's I guess it's like an overwhelming feeling, I will say, to see how quickly we grew. And it was just it was just almost instant, right? And I'm a very calculated person. I'm an overthinker. I'm over calculated, and I'm a heavy planner. You know that.
Yes.
If I don't plan, I will struggle the most. And so the fact that there wasn't really time, you like a business is like a human being, right? So they like a child, raising a child, you know, the kid has its highs and lows. Sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're sad, and you know, they start off as a baby and you're really trying to nurture him or her, and so on and so forth, until you know they're able to kind of spread their wings and fly. But there are some things not naturally you can't anticipate them, they just happen. And I think that was what it was for NURILENS. And around that time, we're also getting all of this media attention. So while it's a great feeling, I think as a business owner, it's also overwhelming.
No, definitely.
I couldn't anticipate it.
I mean, it was overwhelming for me, so I could imagine how it felt for you, especially since like the frames are like, you know, like they're a result of your creation, you know what I'm saying? Like so, and definitely like having an online store is great, but it is in a sense a shield, because you don't have to deal with the criticisms like right in front of you, right?
It's not in your face.
Yes. So
but now you're getting it, and you know, we're on different platforms now. You know, we're not solely on our website. You can find us on Etsy for those who are Etsy shoppers. We're also, you know, in Global Blacks Marketplace, in our first department store. And you know, we want to shout them out for such a great partnership, because even though we're such a small brand, you know, they've really contributed to a lot of visibility, and they've also supported us in really better understanding what customers are looking for, especially when they're shopping in store, right? So again, like all of these things, you're really having to navigate it. And I know a big thing for me, again, being that planner, being that organizer, my big thing is like, okay, how do we make sure that this is a long-term thing, right? Because you do hear of like the one-hit wonder, you know, trends or companies or whatever. And I would hate for NURILENS to be that one-hit wonder company. And so, you know, with the significant growth, I think that's where that overwhelming feeling comes from as well. How do we ensure that we're really building a brand that's sustainable? I think as an industrial and organizational psychology practitioner, which is where my doctorhood comes in, surprise.
My God, I saw that.
And for context to everyone, industrial and organizational psychology really just looks at people who work at a team, a group, an organizational level, and with a heavier focus on employees, right? But basically the dynamics of different types of quote unquote workspaces. And so a lot of my research and my work has been on really how do we position employees to thrive in the workplace. And I say this and share this because we've gotten calls for people from people who are like, are you hiring? And we're such a small team.
Yeah.
But getting those phone calls also tells me that, hey, there's a lot of impact that we can make. And this episode, of course, is our 2-year anniversary episode. And something I shared with the team, what I realized is, just taking a break. And I think over the summer, it was like, okay, we need to hustle, so that we can drop a new design on November 10th, right? Launch a new website, do all these big things. And I got to a point where it's like, we've accomplished so much. We've already doubled our revenue from last year. We met our revenue goal for the year halfway through the year. And I think that's enough to celebrate. And so for me, it was like, listen, we are a small company, and I can't give our team what, I don't know, Warby Parker could probably give their employees. But, I know it's still a responsibility for me to at least create this environment, this work environment where people feel like they belong, where they feel like they matter. And they know that as human beings, I still value them. And so that was something that I shared with the team, that I want everybody to take a week or two just to pause and look back and be like, yeah, I contributed to that. We did that. Right. I had a valuable contribution to what NURILENS looks like today. And so, when I look back at from June, when we had this question, from when we started, from when we were planning, I'm extremely humbled, but overwhelmed at the same time. I know it's a very, very heavy task, and it's scary. I will say that it is a very scary feeling. And I'm being vulnerable in saying that. But as a business owner, where you see you're getting all of this attention, you really kind of have to sit and self-reflect, and say, okay, it's great that you're getting all this attention, but how do we make sure that we have processes in place where you're not getting every customer who's unhappy, right? You're not, your processes are not compromised, and you're not overworking your employees. You're kind of better able to anticipate the surge or the growth and plan more for longevity and sustainability, instead of just peaking and not knowing what to do with it. So that's kind of what I would say.
And off of like just listening to you say that, like it kind of like brought me to realize I felt similarly about the podcast, right? And it's like episode 1, when we were deciding to do this, I was like, okay, we're gonna do this, but like, there's still like a vulnerability that you have to get used to. And like we talk all the time about like how we hope to impact the optical space and the eye health space and the importance of these things. And we recognize all these things, but when trying to translate that into the podcast, it's like, we know we need to do this, but it has to be perfect. You know what I'm saying? Like we're putting all this pressure on ourselves to make it perfect. But it really just came down to being open and just trying to get comfortable in front of a mic and, just letting our voices be heard, because I feel like we have important things to say that can help a lot of people in a lot of ways. So,
Absolutely. And hopefully next season and next year, we'll be able to kind of bring more people to, more visionaries to the table, to join our conversations and our talks, because we know that's one of the things that we really, really look forward to. So episode 2, we're outside. Of course, one of the big resounding themes this year for us has been our pop-ups, because that's where we're meeting you. That's where we're connecting with you. And, of course, we've already shared some of the exciting experiences we've had. I will say next year, we already have people coming to us for next year, like, you need to be here. And we also are working on building, a pool of ambassadors who can also represent us across the country. So we're hoping that we can deliver. We're excited to meet you guys wherever you are. We were more concentrated in the DMV area. We touched New York City a little bit, but we really hope to connect more with you guys wherever you are. So, once you hear this episode, feel free to reach out to us, info@nurilens.co, and share with us where you would like us to be. If you have a festival, a business expo, a marketplace that you would like us to appear at, feel free to send us a message. We're building our calendar for next year already, so we definitely want to connect with you. Our like topic for that We're Outside episode was why people interact with their glasses, like hold their glasses a certain way, right?
Like their mannerisms, right?
Right.
That was what it was, yeah.
Right. And I have to admit, since that episode, I noticed everything people do with their glasses. Everything, especially the this or the this. I notice all of it. And it's just so interesting how, you never notice things until you actually talk about it. And then it's like, wait, you've been doing this all this time and I haven't paid attention to it. But with that being said, what I'm interested in hearing from you is, in terms of these behaviors, do you see research evolving a little bit more to tap into some of those behaviors a little bit, or maybe help people understand their eye health based on these behaviors that they're having? I mean, I had someone from my church who even said, they had a prescription and they thought they didn't need glasses. And then they noticed that they were exhibiting these behaviors and they're like, wait, I think I really need to take this seriously. So as an eye care professional, I'm interested in hearing from you. What do you see, down the line in the future as it relates to people, picking up these behaviors and being more proactive about their eye health?
So something like that kind of ties in the two things basically of that episode in the like the eye mannerisms and like the pop-up shops that I was noticing is when you'll have someone come in and they'll ask like, hey, can I try on a pair of glasses? And I'm like, okay, yeah. They're like, do you guys do prescription? We're like, yeah, of course. They're like, okay, I need reading glasses though, right? And you'll see them like try the glasses on, right? And they'll do different things with them, right? Like they'll do this, they'll, you know what I'm saying? I kind of, in terms of research, I try to lead them in the right direction in terms of like, hey, if you need progressive lenses, maybe try to get like one of our larger frames, right? Maybe not get the Kairos, maybe get the Elwood Cities, or maybe get the New Yorks, right? So I think that's something that kind of stood out to me because people will not think about all the aspects of the lens that they're looking for, right? And like, okay, if I need cheaters, maybe you can just get Kairos then, because they're really slim. They can just fit into your bag. They're not going to be too big, too large of frames, right? But if you need progressive lenses, maybe let me get like a larger frame that will encompass more things. If I want sunglasses, let's look at the New Yorks. It gives me this large lens that can block out a lot of the light as it's coming in. So just kind of like keeping in track that like, hey, like, why are you doing this? And like, why are you looking down, and is it comfortable and does it fit? It's kind of helped me help the customer when they're in frames. So that's kind of the biggest takeaway I've had. Yeah.
Interestingly, this a couple of months ago throughout the summer, we put up a post on our Instagram about even children, right? And their eye health, and some of their behaviors that some, we might assume is a different thing, but we don't think eye health for them, right? And I remember, conducting research on it, and some of the things I found were like some kids who like they're refusing to read. It's not even that they want to hold up the paper. It's like they refuse. They don't want to read, or they're complaining of headaches, or you see that they're struggling to kind of hold the paper at a like just a decent distance, or they're holding it from just different angles, and so on and so forth. And so I think normally you might assume that, hey, the kid is suffering with, I don't know, migraines or some kind of whatever it is. But then it's like, okay, maybe it's time for us to get their eyes checked and see a little bit and looking a little bit more into, these mannerisms and why they're exhibiting that, which is like super, super important, because kids use technology so much now, right? We use so much technology. We're glued to our phones. Kids, of course, we spent 2 years at least learning and working remotely. But now that these kids are going back to school, I'm pretty sure that schools are also trying to integrate more of the digital technology. I know New York City, they even said that they're eliminating snow days, right? So instead of a snow day, the kids just stay home and they learn virtually, right? So I think even with these mannerisms, it's very helpful to pay attention, right? Because remember back in our day,
those snow days were important for me. I needed those.
They were key. And my heart broke for these kids, because I'm like, so you don't get to clown your friends? Because they have to go to school and they didn't get in the snow.
Like,
or remember those days you had to wake up at like 5 or 6 to make sure that your school was scrolling across. Back in those days, there wasn't a texting system and automated. You had to wake up early and 5, 6 o'clock to wait.
That was the earliest I ever woke up.
Of course.
I woke up early, first thing I did, look out the window.
Look out the window.
Okay, all right, there's enough. Okay, let's check the news.
All right. Right. And the thing is, in New York, especially when you live upstate New York, it takes a long time before they cancel school.
Okay, wait. There's different New Yorks though, because we're not upstate New York. We're really not.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So we have New York City. New York City, honestly, it snows, but that's like tier 1 type of snow.
Yeah.
It's basic, it's pretty.
Yeah, it's cute.
Then you move up to like your Rockland County, and there's a difference between Rockland and Orange, because Rockland is like the border. Your Westchester, Rockland, that's where, okay, you're getting to like tier 2. Okay, they get snow. Okay, then you get to like your Orange County, Sullivan, like you're going up. You're getting some real snow, like snow to your doorpost type of stuff.
Yeah.
Past that, going into Western New York, and then further up north, when you're talking Buffalo, Syracuse, at that point you're in Canada.
No, as someone in Buffalo, Juliette, I will tell you,
premium snow.
There are no snow days. There are, in theory, they are snow days, but in practice, they don't use them. Snow isn't real to people in Buffalo. It's not.
And that's where you get premium snow, everyone.
Yeah.
I'd like to introduce you to what we like to call Canada.
You know what they tell you on the news in Buffalo? In the winter, they tell you the days it's not snowing.
Wow.
Because you're supposed to expect it every day. That's how it feels. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. But back to the
kids in New York City. We are so sorry about that.
I'm sorry about that. That's, oh my God.
We're so sorry that you can't even enjoy your tier 1 snow.
Right.
But I mean, again, you have people getting premium snow.
Yeah.
And they don't even consider it snow.
No, it's a daily thing. But yeah, the thing with children and like kids are resilient. Right? Like, and it's one of those things where they don't know, a lot of times they don't really know better. So it's like they're just going to adapt to their surroundings. So it's like, hey, I'm 4 years into this, like I can't see it from here. Let me hold it here so I can see it, right?
Right.
Not knowing that like maybe they need to get some glasses, or maybe they need to stop squinting, or you know what I'm saying? Like there's something
they don't really know how to communicate what they need.
they're just going to try to figure it out, right? And sometimes when they can't figure it out, they become like dejected, and it's like something I was just reading about the other day was like kids, a biomarker for children that are diagnosed with ADHD is they have a thin optic nerve, right? So if you get a scan of their eye, right, you will notice that there's a region that is thinner and it's like underdeveloped, right? So it hasn't fully formed, right? So imagine this, right? You're a child, right? And they're asking you to sit down and do homework, right? ADHD is like hyperactivity, like you can't focus, right?
Right.
You can't focus on any single task, right? And they're asking you, hey, come on, like get this homework done, like you're having a hard time. But imagine you're having a hard time focusing, but also you're having a hard time seeing.
Yeah.
Because you have an underdeveloped optic nerve, your vision is not going to be great, right? So it's like compounded things, right? And a lot of times, I know we talked about this before, vision health is catered to older individuals, right? Because it's like as you age, yeah, your vision will deteriorate, but I think it's also important to recognize not everyone's born with 20/20 vision, and like like a perfect eye health, and a lot of times it's important to monitor these things early in children because they're not going to speak up because they don't really know better.
Right. And there's so much stimuli, as we said, it's technology, it's TV, it's streaming, all of your learning videos are on YouTube now, and I don't know what's in the food either. That can impact. I know we've had this conversation. I'm in my early 30s. And as a kid, there were things you heard about, certain, stroke, heart disease, certain illnesses that they said, oh, early detection is good, but early detection was like your 40s, 50s, 60s. Now, I'm in my, I'm from my mid 20s to now my 30s. You're hearing how some of these things are impacting us at younger ages. And I think in the same thing with eye health, the focus cannot only be, oh, once you hit, 40, 50, 60, you need progressive lenses, or your vision is changing. I think it also needs to be a theme from very young. Let's also assume that with all the stimuli we're taking in, right? With all of, especially, COVID-19 and all of these newly discovered illnesses. I know people spoke about long COVID, but hey, you don't know how this thing can mutate and perhaps impact eye health, and that's not limited to that. That's limited to other things, What about cancer? What about other non-visible disabilities, anemia? What about someone who's pregnant, right? A woman's body, her hormones will change so much while she's pregnant. And I've heard stories about women's teeth falling out and things like that. So, I think it's also important to understand how perhaps these different illnesses impact eye health and vision health. So yeah, starting very young, looking at the different stimuli that children take in, that young people, that adolescents take in, that young adults take in, all the way up to is that the term geriatric age? The older age. All the way up to that age, so that you have just like a holistic understanding of eye health and not just concentrating it solely on one area.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so now that we've spoken about episode 2, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor. Technically, we are the sponsors, but we're going to hear a word from our sponsor and we'll be right back.
This podcast is sponsored by NURILENS, a handcrafted wooden eyewear company. We offer a number of vision and eyewear solutions, whether prescription or non-prescription. NURILENS combines style, performance, and sustainability by creating an experience that encourages self-expression, impact, and improved vision health. Visit NURILENS.co for more information.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to our 2-year anniversary episode. Karl and I were just talking and kind of looking back on number one, our year in review, our 2 years in review, as well as, our previous podcast episodes this season. We've been able to have great talks. And so we want to jump right back into it and look at episode 3, When Life Gives You Lemons. And this is where we heard from one of our followers, Fritz Joseph, on his adventure. I don't want to call it an adventure, but his experience playing basketball, basically getting knocked in the face while trying to do a triple double. I think, if I remember it correctly,
he was playing well. He was playing well, I think, and I think he said someone smacked him in the eye, something hit him in the face,
and it got him in the eye socket.
Yeah. They scratched.
And he kept playing.
Yeah, of course, he kept playing so he could get his triple double. Yeah.
And here he is. And we're so grateful that he has, he does have his eye health and his vision health, and he was willing to share that story with us. And we spoke about protective eyewear, right? For example, basketball players, and especially in fields that normally don't use protective eyewear. But I think this really lends to an important conversation. Do you see technology being used to, number one, protect our eye health, number one, but also, and perhaps this is also something we need to kind of strategically talk about in our planning, but what does the world of protective eyewear look like 5-10 years from now? Is it still going to be limited to you being in the science lab and you playing football? Or are we going to see it extended to other fields, right? Other sports? Are we going to see it extended to, for example, hair care, right? What about children in a science lab? Of course, you're not dealing with that bad of like chemical whatevers, but, instilling those behaviors really early on and different areas. Like, are we going to see more of people being encouraged to wear protective eyewear when they're cutting the grass, when they're working on their car, or even when they're cooking in the kitchen?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of sports, that's been something that stood out to me for a while. And I know we've talked about this, and we might have to do this strategically down the line.
Right.
But I feel like there's a lack of vision correction for like more amateur level sport athletes. And what I mean by that is, so the higher up you get, right? Like if you're a professional basketball player and you need glasses to see, by the time you make it to the pros, you're gonna get Lasik surgery and like just correct it, right? Everyone doesn't have the means to do that, right? And there may be ways to help correct your vision without necessarily like going under the knife or getting a surgery done, right? So I know in the past, a lot of like players will use goggles or things of that nature. But I was recently talking to someone, and this was something that kind of like spurred my thought. I was recently talking to someone, and she's a swimmer, right? So obviously swimming, you got to wear goggles, right?
Right.
And she was saying how her vision, like she's having like corneal issues because she wears her contacts too much, right?
Wow.
Because in order to swim, like she needs glasses, so she has to wear her contacts, and then she
under the goggles,
right? And it's like it can become like a very like humid like space, right? And like now, let's say like some water gets in there. Now it's like kind of trapped in the goggles. It can get under the contacts because she has to try to see. And then it kind of got me thinking, like, is there a way that we could have like corrective goggles
Right.
for swimmers, right? And it's just kind of like pushing the needle. I know we talk about like, yeah, what is the optical space going to look like in 10 years, in 15 years?
Right.
Right? And I think that's something that could definitely help down the line, and just trying to think of different ways to help people. Because in her case, if she got LASIK done, she would be able to put her goggles on and she'd be fine, right? But not
Right.
everyone has access to that, right?
Right.
You know?
And I mean, think of like if you're playing at a high, to your point, you're playing at a high school or college level.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't even have the resources,
Mhm.
right, to get
Mhm.
you just a standard pair of
Yeah.
goggles.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be extremely interesting to.
And for more amateur athletes, a lot of the time they, in order, if they have like aspirations to make it pro, right, or professionally, they're playing like year round, you know.
Right.
So like with professional athletes that do get LASIK surgery, they always do it in the off season, so they have time to get the surgery done, heal, their eye
Right.
has time to recover, and they feel comfortable by the time the season starts to just, you know, their eyes feel good. They can put on a helmet or they can get on the court, they feel fine. But if
Right.
you're like an amateur athlete, like sometimes you don't have the ability to just, you know, get LASIK done and then go play a game in 2
Right.
days. Like, you won't be able to do that. You know what I'm saying? You have to give your eyes some time to heal, especially
Right.
properly, and avoid like any potential infection or, you know, things of that nature. So yeah, that's something I've been thinking about. Like, how can we, you know, think about people that need glasses
Mhm.
but are in spaces where glasses aren't really suitable, right? So it's like,
Right.
how do you help, like, um how do you help someone that's swimming, or how do you help someone that, as you said before, even like a workspace, right?
Right.
Like corrective goggles, so you don't have to have like glasses and, like, you know what I'm saying, protective lenses or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because these are great frames, but these might not be enough protection if you're working in a lab or something like that, and you
Right.
need like full protection,
It
right?
looks good in the office, but I
Yeah.
mean, even in the hospital, right?
Yeah.
Now we have the PPP,
Yeah.
not the PPP,
PPE.
PPE. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
y'all. The loans and the and the gear, but the PPE,
Yeah.
where where you have the full thing on.
Yeah.
But I do wonder myself, because again, I go into the office, or I stay in my home office, but what
Yeah.
about someone who works in a hospital, right?
Mhm.
What about people who have to wear those now, like the face shields and stuff
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
That's a lot of like real estate for me to put glasses on. I don't wear contacts, so it's a lot of real estate for me to put glasses on under that shield. So how do we how do eye care professionals, how do eyewear companies provide value to people in these different spaces,
Yeah.
people who work in hospitals, and so on and so forth,
Yeah.
where it's not always a style thing. It could, you can add a little bit of style to it, but sometimes it's really a function thing. What is going to provide value to me working in this lab, me working in this surgery unit, right? Me playing this sport. For me, I my latest fascination has been hair.
Mhm.
And I said this on a previous episode, I get my hair bleached from the root, but like that's chemicals in that
Yeah.
now travels into the air. And
Mhm.
especially for Black women, our hair is our crown, but we bleach, we color, we do all of these things. And of course that goes into the atmosphere, but that could also impact our eye health, right?
Yeah.
And so, will there ever be a time where, especially hairdressers who live this, right? This is their
That's a good point.
everyday.
Yeah.
For
That's a
me,
good
I'm just
point.
going in, every 2 weeks for an hour or so.
Yeah.
But for
Yeah.
them, this is,
Excessive exposure.
right. So it's
Yeah.
so much exposure. And even if you're in a facility where a space where you're not the only hairdresser, right? It might be a number of chairs.
Yeah.
Now it's, people just working with different things. So yeah, I think there's a lot of space for eye care professionals and the eyewear industry, people working in the eyewear industry, to look at how we can really provide, ourselves included, provide value to the wide range of needs, specifically when we're talking corrective vision.
Yeah, yeah. Like just trying to create more solutions for people, I think is important. Yeah, just like you said it, like I'm thinking back to like my undergrad, like, and I'm doing like the chemistry labs, and I remember seeing so many people who just had glasses and having to put goggles, like these big goggles on top of their glasses, like, and that can't be comfortable, you know, and
Right.
what's the solution for that? Like they just had to deal with it, you know?
Right.
Now, what if that was their career?
Right. And again, for myself, I don't have the patience for me to sit and put contacts. I don't know how to do them. It just, I see it and it like makes me cringe. I can't. So for me, it's like putting the goggles on top of my glasses. And in so many spaces, if I know I will have to wear goggles, there are times when I just completely avoid it.
There are also like eye conditions or like illnesses that will prevent you from being able to get contacts altogether. So sometimes for people, it's like, I just don't like contacts, like it's a choice, right? But for some people, it's like, if you have keratoconus, like you have an irregularly shaped cornea that's thinning. You can't, they will not, like, they can't give you contacts just because they don't want you to further thin your cornea, or it's just an irregular shape. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like a choice thing. It's just like, there's no solution. You have to wear your glasses, you know? So it's, hopefully we can help address these issues for more, you know.
Hopefully we make it past those 5 years, everyone, with your support. All right. Episode 4. Brooklyn Buzz. This was, this episode was more dedicated to our experience at Afropunk, which was absolutely amazing. And I know that you mentioned the just the pride that people had in meeting us, in knowing that, we're a Black owned company and so on and so forth. And also understanding a little bit of our needs, right? So I want to kind of touch on that a little bit, because we also do it for the culture. In your experience as an eye care professional, the work I do in terms of like workplace psychology, you see that there's a growing demographic of underrepresented groups, right? That are entering diversity, equity, inclusion. They're entering industrial organizational psychology. They're entering employee engagement. They're wanting to have more of a voice, right? So that they can speak in a sense for themselves, so that these underrepresented groups do have a voice as it comes to employee engagement, employee psychological safety. So that being said, I'm also interested in your experience, right? As an Afro-Caribbean Black man, eye care professional, working in the ophthalmology space, as well as the optometry space. What has been your experience?
So I would say one of the biggest like motivating factors for me to like want to enter into the space is the experiences I've had thus far, right? And they're kind of like reassuring events, and they kind of stick with me a little bit. Buffalo is a very diverse place, right?
Like, Buffalo is Canada, everyone. We just want to let you know that is the part of New York that.
Okay. Well, it's a very diverse place, and
the rest of us call
there's a high Black population, right?
Right.
But in terms of physicians, I don't think I can name one Black physician that I know in the area. And not to say that is a fault of anyone else, but I think it helps to see someone like you helping you, right? And in that sense, I mean, like when I've been with patients, right, and they see me, they're like, "Wow, like, are you trying to become an eye doctor?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, Please do it." Like, and I've had patients come in, like I've had patients come in for a visit, and then they came in for their next visit and they requested to see me. And not only did they request to see me for me to work them up, they brought their grandchildren with them.
Wow.
So that they could see me as an example, right? And she let me know that. She was like, "Next time I'm coming, I'm gonna bring my grandkids." And I was like, "Okay." I'm not thinking she's like, and then
she coming back with her grandkids.
I mean, she came back, but not only did she come back, she was at the front desk and she's like, "No, I need make sure he takes my chart." You know what I'm saying? So now, like, I'm like, okay, like it's bigger than just like one person. It's providing an example to other people and showing them that they can do anything I mean, you don't have to become an eye doctor. Whatever your passion is, you can do it too. And sometimes you just need to see someone do it in front of you, right? And that kind of like fuels the fire in yourself that like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it too, right? So that's one of the biggest things I think, just making sure everyone's catered to. And I think along with that goes like the actual healthcare aspect of like, I know the issues that are destroying the Black community. Like, I recognize them because I see them and I live them every day, right? I can recognize what's going on with someone, and I will better connect with that issue, right? So like, not to say that I would be a superior physician, but it's like I'll be more inclined to understand what they're going through because I can kind of see myself in them. So yeah, I think that's something that I hope we can help diversify the physicians in all healthcare spaces, so that there's like a true representation of the population. You know, like you see yourself and who's helping you, and I think that's something that's really important to me.
And I appreciate you, and thank you for sharing that story of the patient who said, "Hey, I'm coming in with my grandkids." I think that's so important. And this is something I've shared. Again, we come from an Afro-Caribbean homes, right? You went to the American school, right? You spoke English. For lunch, it was like the hamburger and the fries and stuff. And then you went home to rice and veggie stew and speaking predominantly Haitian Creole at home, and so on and so forth. And so it's a very big change in the culture. And I think sometimes the challenge is, even going to the doctor, right? Of course, medicine is good, but at times it's like, listen, I'm used to using herbs, I'm, in the Haitian community, castor oil, herbs, and stuff like that. Sometimes if you don't have a doctor that can identify with you and with your experience, it makes it hard for them to even want to receive where you're coming from, right? Or be able to have that conversation of, okay, I see the benefit in this, but how do we kind of create a healthy balance? And I think the same thing with eye health. One thing I always mention, which I'm like completely mortified by, is like how we cook. There's always that running joke with like children of the diaspora. I think I said it right this time. The African and the Afro-Caribbean, and the Latine diaspora, where for us, when we're cooking, we're kind of like being so careful and putting one little droplet, one fry in a pan of oil, lightly oiled pan, versus our parents. They might as well just immerse their hand in the oil, in the pot, in the boiling water, because it doesn't mean anything. But again, even things like that, right? Knowing those experiences, for me, I've seen like the oil splattering out of the pan, and it's like, God forbid that gets you in the eye. That's permanent damage. you know, us boiling stew or broth or whatever, and we've boiled it and then we're blending it. That pressure can build up, and when it, you know, explodes in a blender, that can nearly blind you. So things like that, you know, just these simple things that are very unique to our culture. You know, having an eye care practitioner that understands that, right?
What's going
And
on?
also being able to speak to a lot of, as you said, a lot of these illnesses that our community deals with, right? High blood pressure, diabetes, and so on and so forth. You being able to really identify and meet them where they are, and also them being more willing to receive what you're saying because you can identify with them. I think that is so critical.
Yeah, because I think there can be a lack of reception from patient to physician sometimes. And I know, like, I mean, we're both Haitian. Like, sometimes I feel like in the community there'll be like an apprehend, like we got our own remedies to forget these things. You know what I'm saying? Like my mom come in my room, she put some onions, like what, you know,
garlic, onions.
She got her solutions. You see what I'm saying? So and not to say that there's like a distrust to medicine, but there's not a full acceptance that you'll see with other groups of people, right? And I think in having representation on the other side of the fence, it would be like, okay, I kind of feel more comfortable interacting in this space, you know, and like listening to your feedback and what you might suggest to me to do, right? Just because you might have come from a similar upbringing. So
right. Definitely. And it makes me remember when I actually went to the Association of Haitian Professionals. We were a vendor at their community picnic, and to have people come to us and say, we don't even see eyewear companies or eye care professionals that look like us. You know, they don't speak our language. They don't. And that's another thing. When English is not your first language, now there's another level of cultural competency.
Exactly.
Right?
Like, I can't even know.
Like people coming to our table. Right. And I think it adds value to just the work that we do. Because again, I'm a workaholic. I'm working to find the balance and everything like that. But I love to work. And my thing is like, it's constantly just like a check box that I'm like, okay, I started this business. Okay, I did this project. And I really had to slow down and recognize that, no, we're offering these products to human beings, right? Human beings, dynamic individuals who really, you know, to them, when they're trying to purchase a product, they're also looking at the thought that went into developing their product. And so being at the Association of Haitian Professionals Community Picnic, even, and in English, it's called the Haitian Committee, but Comité Haïti, that's located in, based out of Baltimore, Maryland, they also had a community picnic, and you're networking with different people. And again, you're hearing how important and valuable it is to them that someone that speaks their native language, right, or that of their parents or their grandparents, and someone that looks like them, identifies with their culture, understands all of those different nuances, is now creating this product, right, that fits them. And I know we've even had conversations about like the face shapes, right? And I recently read an article today about how a lot of glasses are catered to more of a European nose, right? And that was a truth that I also had to come to. You know, for me, I have a little bit more of a broader nose. So I'm like, I guess I'm like somewhere in the middle or something like that. And so I wanted to ensure that when I came out with the designs, even with like the temples, that they can stretch out and accommodate different face shapes, you know, that even the nose sizes were decent. And even then, I'm still having my people come back and they're giving feedback and they're like, hey, you know, could we have this nose piece a little broad? a little more broad, or
Yeah.
broader. I think that's the proper English
Yeah.
term, and so on and so forth. And so in terms of our design, in terms of the solutions that we put out, even, you know, us coming out with a wood polish, right? Having a wooden product, wood is it's a sustainable choice, but it's also biodegradable, right? And as Black people, our faces make oils, and our hair products and everything like that, our hair, our skin naturally makes these oils, and it can impact the quality of the wood. So what did we do? We had to go and see how we can find a solution that allows people to, you know, be able to really enjoy the full life cycle of their frames.
And maintain.
And exactly. So from a design perspective, that's a big conversation that we're having. How do we ensure that we are catering to the wide diversity, right, of facial features that are putting on these frames? Because, I mean, you can say there's slightly a happy medium, but it's even better when not only, yes, there's an eyewear designer that looks like me, but they're also conducting research and constantly working to improve and build and evolve their product line so that it does cater more to someone like me. So
yeah.
And another part of our episode 4, Brooklyn Buzz, was the story from from the DMV about him having to wear glasses most of his life, but, you know, questioning the times he would sit under the covers with a little Buzz Lightyear flashlight so that he could read.
It wasn't a flashlight, it was a toy that had a light. I think that's
there
what
we
it was.
go.
Yeah, it was a toy with a light, and he would read at night. And he was curious, I think, if that affected his vision later down the line, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And we've spoken about like how technology, especially electronics, are impacting our vision, especially young kids, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, of course, our brand, all of our frames are blue light blocking. That's, you know, one of the key features that we offer in our lenses. And now you have computer monitors, phones with, you know, blue light blocking features. But beyond that, as an eye care professional, I'm interested in, you know, your perspective as to how you see technology continuing to evolve to ensure that, you know, as we consume all of this stimuli, right, through our phones, through our televisions, through our computers, our iPads, that our eye health is still maintaining. And what do you think the responsibility is as it relates to all of these technology companies building these products?
So, and just thinking about like the story that F gave us, I think it was like, while there's no way to tell, like, to say for sure that the reading at night was the cause of it and like the use of that light, but it sounds like he's a little older, right? But now just like take that and imagine children today.
Right.
So it's like
not just Buzz Lightyear toy lights.
It's not even a Buzz Lightyear toy at all. It's a kid under the covers with an iPad. You know what I'm saying? It's a kid with a phone, or, you know, and not even just at night. Let's think about throughout the day, because if F was home and he was reading, right, a book during the day, that was fine. This kid is now, this 2022 child is like looking at a phone or an iPad all the time.
On the way to school, in school, after
school, what snow days, like, you know what I'm saying?
I don't have any more.
You know, exactly. That's my point. Like there's all day, every day, like that's
interesting, because we used to have flip phones. We had flip phones, or like I had a Nokia, but the screen was so tiny, all you could do was play the snake game.
But it's not the same. It's not the same level of like.
Y'all missed out. I do want to let y'all know that.
Yeah, they definitely missed out. So yeah, I'm like, and this is something that like I'm thinking about, like, what are we gonna find out in like the next like 20 years as like these children that are like developing, like, because
Right.
as a child, as in your adolescence, that's when you're most like mendable per se,
Right.
right? And we don't know, like we this isn't something like we've done in the past and like we're like,
Right.
oh, this is that. Like, no, we don't know. This excessive exposure to all these screens and all this screen time. And this is all they know. So as they develop, like what I fear that it's gonna be I fear that it's going to be in a way more to help fix the problem as
Mm,
opposed to prevent the problem, right?
right.
Um, I
Which
don't
is
know.
not, I hope we can move toward prevention
Mhm.
than just fixing
Yeah, and I think that's something that we're really big on focusing on here is like
right.
I don't I don't need prescription glasses. These are not prescription frames that I'm wearing here. I'm just conscious of the fact that there's all this blue light that I'm
Right.
taking in, and I try to protect my eyes as best as I can. And that's kind of what a part of our mission is like
Right.
while we do want to provide like sustainable frames to people, we also want to like, hey, there's a shift that's going on where glasses aren't just for your visual acuity, it's also now for your vision health and
Yeah.
maintaining that and your eye health in general, you know?
Yep.
So yeah, like trying to make sure NURILENS is around to help people prevent deteriorating their vision and their eye health is something that I think is important to both of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, as we come to the end of our episode, I think the one thing we get from here is that if you are an eye care professional, first and foremost, we want to affirm you and recognize you in, for whoever, especially an eye care professional of color. We want to affirm you and recognize you because you are doing more than you think. And you're having a larger impact than you think. An eyewear company, and shout out to all of you. Of course, we are existing in the same space, but I would be remiss not to acknowledge those eyewear designers, especially of color, that are normally underrepresented in the industry, because again, we are doing work that is extremely impactful, beyond what we can imagine. And in addition to that, I think what we gauge is that there's so much more to learn, so much more research to be done, so many
Yeah.
solutions to be put in place so that we're moving from being proactive about our eye health than being reactive.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this anniversary episode, again, we want to thank you guys for hanging with us for episode number 5 and for season 1. We look forward to putting out much more content for season 2, bringing in more people in our conversations, having panel discussions, bringing professionals in various fields who can really speak to us about eye health and speak to us about their experiences. Given that it is our 2-year anniversary, we do have, I want to say it's a 30% off sale going on as we speak. And once we hit December, that's going to go down, I would like to say, to a lower percentage. And I don't want to say a number because I think I forgot it. But I believe it's going to be 20%. And that's going to go through the rest of the year. So we want to wish everybody, again, thank you so much for hanging with us, supporting NURILENS in 2022. We look forward to continuing to add value to your experience. And before we wrap up,
Yeah, you're gonna close the season off with
I'm gonna close the season off with a special for y'all. Karl, you don't. I need you to be excited. I say this every single time we get
I'm
to
happy this
spot.
is the last time. I gotta hear this season. All right, come on.
Okay.
I'm ready.
It's our eye joke.
I will say, this is for as much as I don't enjoy this part of the podcast, this is the part that like I get the most feedback about. Like people are like, "Oh, we love this. The jokes are great," and I'm like,
Oh, really? Great.
Yeah,
So that's
I've
why
heard
we're
this multiple times. They're like, "We love the jokes," and I'm like, "Oh my goodness."
y'all. I knew that y'all were vibing with me. I keep telling y'all, see, and
You
y'all
know,
are giving Karl
the
this
worst part is
feedback.
like I'm trying to find a way to like cut this out of the podcast, but they're
We're
like,
not getting
"The
rid of it.
joke?" And I'm like,
No, we're not getting rid of it. Thank you. Thank you so much to everyone who has enjoyed this part of our episodes, because this is the part that I live for. Anyway, are you ready?
mm-hmm.
What is it called when you poke your eye while putting on safety goggles? What is it called when you poke your eye while putting on safety goggles?
I don't know.
Irony. You get it? Irony. Bro, that was good. I'm gonna just clap for myself at this point. And whoever came up with this joke. Irony. Bro, just laugh at it. Just laugh.
That was bad.
That is so good. Oh my gosh. Like, I think I'm crying. I think I'm tearing up because it's so good. It's so good. Oh my gosh. That was great. Y'all, make sure you go back to episode 1. Chime in the comments. We would love to hear your feedback. Of course, send us your eye stories, your Nuri letters. We would love to hear about your experiences. Of course, you do not have to put out your full government. You can give us an alias, and if you have any interesting eye jokes, send it our way. I will personally ensure that we share it on the podcast. It was an amazing ride with you guys this year, and we are looking forward to next year. We want to wish everybody happy holidays, whatever holiday you celebrate. We wish you a safe and prosperous end of the year and new year. See you in 2023. Juliette signing out.
Oh, bye. Thank you again for tuning into the VisioNuri Podcast. We hope that you receive some nuggets that will help you make better decisions about your eye health. Anything we've discussed in this episode should not be taken as medical advice. And if you have any questions or concerns about your own personal health, please reach out to your local doctor.
If you like what you've heard, feel free to leave us a review with your feedback. Also, feel free to visit our website at www.NURILENS.co for your next pair of frames.
We offer non-prescription and prescription options with different features to fit your style and vision needs. Enjoy 20% off your purchase with the code VisioNuri20 today. That's VisioNuri20 today.
Remember to see through the lens of your purpose. We look forward to chatting with you next time. Bye.